News that's coming in at the moment. It's Prime Minister Narendra Modi who's spoken on the ties between India and the United States of America. Prime Minister Modi has responded to Donald Trump's statement. Prime Minister Modi said, fully reciprocate Donald Trump's sentiments. India-US share a very positive partnership. India-US partnership is very forward-looking. Appreciate the positive assessment of our ties. India-US have a special relationship. What we also heard was Donald Trump just a couple of hours ago say Prime Minister Modi is a great Prime Minister, will always be friends with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So this was the statement which came in from Donald Trump, and now we are seeing Prime Minister Narendra Modi reciprocating that sentiment and saying that the government is appreciative of the positive assessment of India-US ties that is being done by the US administration, particularly by the US President Donald Trump. We just heard a couple of hours ago, a big statement came in from the US President Donald Trump, who said that India and the United States, at the moment, they are facing some glitches, but he has a personal rapport, a good personal rapport with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said, India-US partnership is very forward-looking. Appreciate the positive assessment of the ties between US and India. Donald Trump also said, India-US have a special relationship. Prime Minister Modi is a great Prime Minister, will always be friends with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So this is a statement which came in from US President Donald Trump. And now Prime Minister Narendra Modi responding to what Donald Trump has said, fully reciprocate Donald Trump's statements. India-US share a positive partnership. We have seen how this relationship actually over the past few days has gone through a lot of turmoil, lots of ups and downs. My colleague Gaurav Sawant is now joining me on the story. Gaurav, it seems like with both the leaders coming out in the open, giving statements that this partnership is a solid partnership, a partnership which will have far-reaching implications, forward-looking partnership. With Prime Minister Narendra Modi also endorsing similar views, it seems like we have been able to cross forth, and now we will see positive relationships and positive assessment of things happening in months to come.
This is a very interesting development, and the US appears to be blowing hot, blowing cold. But if we ignore what Howard Lutnick, US Commerce Secretary, said just yesterday, and I'll come to that in just a moment, there appears to be an off-ramp, at least prima facie, from what US President Donald Trump said. He said, I don't like the fact that India is buying oil from Russia, but it's a great partnership. Modi's a great guy, he's a great friend, and all of that. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has responded very positively to this statement. And it is a fact the India-US comprehensive bilateral relationship. Both countries have invested tremendously in this relationship, and it's held both countries in great stead in the past 26 years, especially post-Kargil. After that, Donald Trump tried to just completely change all of that. And by all accounts in India, the assessment was it's not about trade, it's about, in a way, Donald Trump trying to dominate India's foreign policy, the way India deals with either SCO or BRICS or Russia, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi going to Tianjin for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit. That picture with the Russian president and the Chinese president, that sent out a very strong message. And yesterday, that message that came out on Truth Social from US President Donald Trump, when he said, I've lost India and Russia to deepest, darkest China. So the implications were very clear. It's the deepest, darkest China that he has to take on in the long run. China is the one that's threatening American supremacy in the decades ahead. And Donald Trump came in for tremendous criticism back home in the United States, whether Republican or Democrats, and specifically the strategic community. And they asked, is trade worth losing India to China? Also, it's impacting America adversely. Look at the latest economy figures, that are coming in the United States of America from analysts talking about recession, inflation, job losses in the United States of America. So until the deal is done, it's still not done. But at the same time, this does appear to be an off-ramp for both sides.
Right, Gaurav, one of the other things also that we are now seeing is the tug of war that was taking place. And you rightly pointed out that it is not just only about trade. What we also saw is that the US administration, the US President Donald Trump, somewhere trying to do the one-upmanship of sorts that was happening. And it was India very, very clearly said that we do not want any third party when it comes to India and Pakistan, especially with regards to the Kashmir issue. India has said this time and again that we will not accept that. It seems like a softening of stance is taking place, especially from the United States president's side.
Aishwarya, you're absolutely right. You've interacted with Union Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal and the team very extensively. Trade is one very important aspect. But when Prime Minister Narendra Modi had traveled to the United States of America in February, amongst the first world leaders to do so after Trump's inauguration on the 20th of January, the effort was that compact that was inked between India and the United States. So there were three aspects of that relationship. Trade was one, defense was the other, defense and strategic and high technology initiatives on either side was the third. So when it comes to NASA and ISRO operating together, working together, that's on an even keel. When you talk about defense and strategic ties, that's on an even keel. Indian forces exercising in the United States of America, India talking about a $1 billion possible fighter jet engine GE-404 engine deal with the United States of America for India's light combat aircraft, and the GE-414 engines for LCA Mark II for the upgraded LCAs. So all of that remains on an even keel. But if trade had gone downhill, if the trade ties had gone completely downhill, the kind of words that were coming from the United States of America, especially people like Peter Navarro and Howard Lutnick, it did threaten the good relations. But look at India very maturely. India ignored all the rhetoric and the noises that came from the MAGA ecosystem, including the US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Not very easy to ignore him, not very easy to ignore Pete Navarro. But what was Lutnick saying yesterday? That within a month or two, India will come and say sorry. He was using words to the effect that it was bravado on India's part, like Canada, elbows up for now. Ultimately, when sanctions start to bite, businesses will rise. All of that did not happen, but that did not mean India did not take effective countermeasures. GST reforms, for instance, putting more money in the common person's pocket so that he could buy more made in India stuff, reaching out to over 40 countries to diversify India's trade, reaching out to China, reaching out to Russia, reaching out to other partners, the European Union, for example. So there were many steps that India was simultaneously taking to mitigate the threat, and America realized that would it want to lose India to China for a trade deal that really wasn't in America's interest, and the kind of trade deal that Donald Trump was trying to push through. However, I do want to add a caveat that it's not done till it's done. There are reports of US cozying up to Pakistan. Now,
Right.
if US were to supply military hardware to Pakistan, if US was to give get closer to Pakistan, it will be an area where India would be very concerned. But India's Operation Sindoor, that has been an absolute game changer. Despite China, despite Turkey, despite the best that Pakistan could do, India
Right.
was able to slam Pakistan. Rahim Yar Khan is a base that is still not operational. I think it's been 130 days plus, and Rahim Yar Khan is still not operational. Noor Khan is just about becoming operational. So it just goes
Right.
on to indicate that India has been able to show our military power, our strategic power, our economic power. At the same time, India would be very happy to have great relations with the United States, great relations with Russia and China, so that our economy grows, so that we become the third largest economy in the world. That is India's principal effort right now.